Hey everyone, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're looking at something absolutely fascinating: how living things actually react to the world around them and, well, survive. I mean, every single day, whether you're navigating a super busy street or you're just a simple houseplant sitting on a windowsill, you are constantly bombarded with signals from your environment. But how exactly does a living organism take all that messy information, process it in real time, and then execute a perfectly timed response? Well, buckle up, because today we are going to unpack the brilliant, completely invisible systems that make all of this possible. To kick things off, think about this for a second. Let's say you accidentally brush your hand against a hot iron. How does your hand know to violently pull away before your conscious mind even registers the actual pain? To understand how our body steps in and saves us from dangerous situations practically instantly, we have to look really closely at its hidden communication networks. Seriously, it is an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering. So here is our roadmap for today. We've organized this complex biology into 4 quick chapters. 1. The human wiring system. 2. Decoding the brain. 3. The chemical messengers. And finally, 4. How plants move. Let's start right in with Chapter 1, the human wiring system. If we want to understand those split-second survival reactions, we really need to look at our core building block, which is the neuron. You can basically think of this as your body's personal biological electrical wire. Here's how it works. Information from the outside world gets detected by receptors, let's say the ones in your skin, and that triggers an electrical impulse. This spark starts at those little branch-like structures called the dendritic tip. From there, it shoots straight through the main cell body, travels all the way down that really long tail we call the axon, and finally hits the nerve endings. It's a highly specialized, insanely fast pathway designed to get a message from point A to point B in mere milliseconds. Okay, so let's see exactly how this wiring works in a real emergency, in something we call a reflex arc. Let's go back to that hot iron scenario. Step 1, the crazy heat acts as a stimulus, and the receptors in your skin detect it. Step 2, a sensory neuron instantly fires an impulse straight to your spinal cord. Step 3, a relay neuron inside the spinal cord processes the alert. Step 4, it immediately fires a brand new command down a motor neuron. And Step 5, the muscle in your hand acts as the effector, contracting hard to pull your hand out of danger. The really crucial takeaway here is that during a reflex action, this lightning-fast sequence bypasses your brain entirely to save you from getting burned. Conscious thought? It would just take way too long. But wait, there is a tiny, fascinating catch in this whole wiring setup. Neurons don't actually physically touch each other. There's a microscopic gap between them called a synapse. So you might be wondering, how on earth does an electrical spark cross an empty gap? Well, it's a completely ingenious system. When the impulse reaches the nerve ending, the electricity triggers the release of a chemical signal. This chemical literally floats across the gap, binds to the dendrite of the next neuron, and boom, it sparks a brand new electrical impulse. Converting the signal from electrical to chemical and then back to electrical ensures that the message only ever moves in exactly one direction. All right, moving right along to Chapter 2, Decoding the Brain. So while your reflexes might skip the brain entirely, virtually everything else you do is coordinated right up here in this central control room. And if you look at the central nervous system, you'll see it isn't just one uniform blob. It's actually highly segmented into very distinct zones. You've got the forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindbrain. And let me tell you, they each have dramatically different responsibilities. In fact, the brain acts kind of like a highly specialized management team. The massive cerebrum, which sits up in your forebrain, is basically the seat of your intelligence. It handles all your conscious thinking and voluntary actions, like choosing to pick up a pencil. Then, tucked neatly in the back, is the cerebellum, part of your hindbrain. This zone is entirely obsessed with precision and balance. It's literally the reason you can walk in a straight line or successfully ride a bicycle without falling over. Also in the hindbrain is the medulla, which quietly runs all the involuntary background stuff that keeps you alive, from regulating your blood pressure to triggering reflexes like vomiting. Oh, and the forebrain even has a specialized little center called the hypothalamus that handles internal cues. That's the part that chimes in to let you know when you're hungry. Because this central nervous system, meaning your brain and your spinal cord, is so absolutely vital, your body spares literally no expense to protect it. It encases the whole thing in a highly secure, fluid-filled biological helmet. Your brain sits securely inside the hard bone of your skull, it's wrapped in protective layers of tissue called meninges, and it literally floats in this amazing, shock-absorbing cushion known as cerebrospinal fluid. And your spinal cord? It gets the exact same VIP treatment, perfectly shielded by your bony vertebral column. That brings us to Chapter 3, the chemical messengers. We've talked a lot about our high-speed electrical wiring, but what happens when the body needs to send a signal to every single cell at the exact same time? This highlights the great divide between our fast electrical grid and our slower, much more widespread chemical mailing system, the endocrine system. Look, electrical impulses are phenomenal for speed, no doubt, but they can only reach cells that are physically touching nerve tissue, and those nerve cells actually need a tiny bit of reset time after every single time they fire. Hormones, on the other hand, they are secreted directly right into your bloodstream. Sure, they might travel a bit slower, but they can reach absolutely every stimulated cell in your entire body, and their effects are continuous and last way, way longer. Let's look at 3 heavy hitters in this system to see how it works in practice. First up, the pancreas. It secretes insulin to constantly regulate your blood sugar levels, and if there's a deficiency here, that leads to diabetes. Then you have the thyroid gland in your neck, which produces thyroxine to control your metabolism. Interestingly, thyroxine famously requires iodine from your diet to work properly. Otherwise, you run the risk of developing a goiter. And then there are the adrenal glands. If you are ever suddenly terrified, say you're startled by a wild animal or you panic looking over a steep cliff, your adrenal glands instantly flood your blood with adrenaline. This perfectly prepares your body for an emergency by jacking up your heart rate so more oxygen rushes to your muscles. It's the ultimate fight or flight switch. But of course, just wildly flooding the body with chemicals would be super dangerous if it wasn't controlled. So, as a general rule, the timing and the exact amount of any hormone secreted is strictly regulated by what we call a feedback mechanism. Your body is just incredibly efficient. It releases hormones like insulin precisely when needed and in the exact dosage required. So, if your blood sugar spikes after eating a massive meal, insulin is released. But as soon as that sugar level drops back down to normal, the pancreas detects the change and immediately shuts off the insulin supply. It is a brilliant, completely self-balancing feedback loop. And now for our final chapter, Chapter 4, How Plants Move. Here is a wild twist for you. How do plants do any of this? They have absolutely no brains and 0 nervous tissue. So how do they coordinate their actions? Well, without nerves, they rely 100% on their own specialized chemical messengers, plant hormones, to grow and react to the world. Auxin, for example, is synthesized right at the tips of the shoots and promotes cell elongation. Then there's cytokinin, which encourages rapid cell division. But it's not always just about growing. Sometimes a plant needs to hit the brakes. That's where abscisic acid, or ABA, comes in. It acts as an inhibitor, signaling the plant to actually halt its growth, or even causing leaves to wilt in order to conserve precious resources. The result of these chemical messengers is actually pretty dramatic if you watch closely. Take a potted plant whose shoot is actively and permanently bending toward a sunny window. Compare that to the famous touch-me-not plant, which instantly folds up its leaves and droops just moments after you brush your finger against it. These are 2 very, very different types of movement, and they are governed by entirely different biological rules. It really comes down to the 2 primary ways plants can move. On one hand, you have tropic movement, like that plant slowly bending toward the light. This is a very slow, directional growth movement. It's actually driven by hormones like auxin piling up on the shaded side of the stem, which forces the cells on that dark side to grow longer, physically bending the plant toward the sun. On the other hand, you have nastic movement, like our touch-me-not plant. This is rapid and non-directional. And here's the crazy part. It doesn't involve growth at all. It is an instant, pressure-based folding mechanism caused by water rapidly draining out of the cells at the base of the leaves the moment they're touched. And they're reacting to way more than just light or a simple touch. You've got geotropism for gravity, phototropism for light, and chemotropism for chemicals. It just proves that a brain absolutely isn't required to intelligently navigate the physical world. For example, positive geotropism ensures that a plant's roots will always relentlessly push downward toward gravity to find stability and water, literally no matter which way you plant the seed in the dirt. So, wrapping up, it really makes you stop and wonder about the hidden language of life that is just constantly buzzing beneath the surface, doesn't it? From the microscopic electrical sparks jumping across the synapses inside your own head, to the slow, relentless chemical instructions guiding a tiny pea plant tendril toward the sun, life has engineered some truly profound ways to communicate. The next time you automatically jerk your hand back from something hot, or you just watch a flower turn to follow the sun, remember the vastly complex, totally invisible networks that are making it all happen. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the amazing world around you.